even in the course of a year. I love the quote, from day to day, progress is invisible. From year to year, it's impossible to miss. But in a way, unless you're reflecting and you're taking a lot of perspective, it is kind of hard to see the changes year to year.
The numbers get really big really fast. Math, projecting into the future, and numbers, which math and numbers are the same. Math and projecting into the future is the lesson.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1206. What would make you proud of you? Because you being proud of you is one of the most important things in the world. Today, for episode number 1207, the number one lesson we learned in 2022. Alan and I had a conversation today during one of our meetings. We do a score where we look at our branding and we figure out, is our social media better? Are our stories better? How are we improving? And I said to Alan, Alan, have we improved at all this year? I feel like sometimes I look at my social media and it doesn't seem like it's improved, or sometimes I listen to the podcast and I don't think it's improved, or I look at certain things and I don't necessarily see that they've improved. The number one lesson for me is it's very, very, very hard to see all the changes that happen over the course of the year, because almost none of them happen at the same time. So when I look back, our website, shout out to Alessandra, website got completely redone. Christina's been absolutely crushing digital assets. The branding's come way up, right? Ron and Aaron have crushed the podcast. The podcast has come way up. The videos come way up. The teaser clips have come way up. Everything has come way up. Laura, I've been on however many shows. And if I'm forgetting anybody, it's just because I don't want to take the whole episode going through everybody, but you're all the best and we have the best team in the world. That, for me, it's almost like you only recognize the latest change and then you forget about it when it becomes normal. Like, think of how many last year, Taryn got me a really nice espresso machine for Christmas. And I love it. I still use it every day. But after the first couple months, you kind of forget about it. The luster of it wears off a little bit. And then something else happens. We get something else new. Whatever, I don't know what it was, but we got something else new. And then it's like, oh, this is awesome. And then you forget about that after a short amount of time. It's not because it's not awesome. It's because it's not the most recent and relevant improvement. And I just think that's the lesson for me is, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. It's not a long time. But it also is an unreasonably long time depending on what you're doing. If you're focused, maybe this is what it is. If you're focused on improvement, a year is not a very long time. Because there's so much to improve. And there's so many opportunities to improve. And it's almost like that's not enough time to improve everything. And then by the time you get done improving everything, you got to start over again. It's like, all right, cool. Everything's been leveled up. Now we got to do it again. That's the lesson for me is it's very hard to recognize a change, even in the course of a year. I love the quote, from day to day, progress is invisible. From year to year, it's impossible to miss. But in a way, unless you're reflecting and you're taking a lot of perspective, it is kind of hard to see the changes year to year because there's so many of them. That's the interesting thing. There's just so many of them that it's hard to create a bucket of them. That is mine. And this would be the takeaway for you if you're listening. If you feel like not a lot changed this year, check in with what changed. Maybe too much change where you can't recognize it. That's what I would say.
This will be a little bit of a different one for me, Kev, because when you open these episodes, I'm trying to see what comes up for me as what I think will be valuable. And I wanted to share with the listeners an exercise that you and I did recently. I think this was you and I. So Kevin and I are on Zoom and we're reflecting on the years. We're going through, so at 2017 in March, when did we start the Hyperconscious podcast?
I believe it was either March 31st or the beginning of April.
Okay. March or April of 2017 is when the Hyperconscious podcast meets Conversations Change Lives was born. For all of our new listeners, we have
That
many.
was when the Hyper Conscious podcast was born. You and I didn't partner up until 2018.
Got it.
But still, that's when it counts.
But still. Okay. So for those of you who are new listeners, essentially Kevin and I eventually partnered up. I had a podcast, he had a podcast. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But Kevin and I were on Zoom and we were reflecting. We wanted to take the last 5.5 years of knowledge, experience, skills, mindset, awareness, and we want to invest it into the 2023, into the, in this case, 6th year or 7th, depending on where you make the cutoff. And Kevin and I said, how long do you think Google's been around? And you were like, I don't know. Was this with you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And then we Googled when Google was first founded, which I think is honestly kind of
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. So we Googled it, obviously. And we found out Google is only 24 years old. And Kevin and I are 10 years older than Google, which is just wild, right? Because think about it, right? Who here can remember the internet? I'm acting like this is a live event. Please raise your hand if. No. Who here can remember the internet without Google? I can't. You know, I remember Googling on a Mac. Remember when we were in middle school and we had those Macs? We were playing Oregon Trail. You remember Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail, gerbils.
Yeah, gerbils.
Gerbil coasters.
That was fun.
That was the wildest game.
The rainbow coaster. You remember?
I don't remember Google because I don't think I was really caring. There wasn't a lot of learning going on for me, so Google was kind of useless to me personally.
Yeah, Kev was an athlete. I was the academic.
I was just playing Oregon Trail, trying not to get my cattle stolen or my ox eaten or whatever.
Yeah, what was it? It's like your member of your team has been bitten by a copperhead.
Yeah.
And you have, and then every time you get to a river, it's like, do you want to risk it and just kind of walk through, or do you want to drown? Essentially, for those of you who have never played Oregon Trail, I apologize for wasting your time. So Google's 24 years old, and so we looked it up. We looked up their revenue. We looked up how many people work at Google, XYZ, and then we looked back at our years. We're 5.5 years in. In 2017, we had 2 members of the team, which is just Kevin and myself. In 2018, we had 4. In 2019, we had 7. In 2020, I think we had 12. In 2021, I believe it got to 14. And then by the end of 2022, we had 19. And so I said this to the chief officer. So Christina's a chief operating officer of our business. Kevin's chief financial officer. I'm chief executive officer. So we have a chief officers meeting every week where we talk about the state of the business, kind of like the state of the union. And we go over the whole business and the future and the past and all that. One of the things we talked about was I said, I'm anticipating 30 team members by the end of 2023. My goal with the business is to have one director of each department. We have 25 departments. And I want each director to only be responsible for one department, but I want them to be able to work on any team they want. So whatever they're passionate about, they can work on the other teams, but I want them to mostly be responsible for just one main focal point. So anyways, I'm not going to go down the business rabbit hole, but here's my point. The reason we could project 30 team members in 2023 is because we took the growth rate over the last 5.5 years and we just projected it one more year. And so for me, that's the lesson. The lesson is to piggyback on what Kevin is sharing. I didn't realize how few people are doing this projecting, the projecting into the future. So when I say, I remember I was talking to my executive admin, Amy Diaz. We call her OG Amy. She's been with us since the beginning. She was one of the very first team members. And she's the one who went to the mall with Kevin, for those of you who know that story. Talk to strangers, riding zoo animals around the mall. If you don't know that story, you'll hear it at some point. But anyways, I was talking to her and I was like, Amy, it's crazy how much things have changed, huh? This is like on New Year's Eve or New Year's. I forget when we talked. And she's like, it's unbelievable. And I said, did you know? Like, did you know that this much demand would be? She's like, I remember the days when you and I used to hang out, do work, and watch Harry Potter and get pad thai, and we'd like eat crab rangoons. And those days are over, quite frankly, for the listeners. I'm not like watching Harry Potter anymore. I am maybe on my own or whatever, but Amy and I would get together, we'd work for like 3 or 4 hours, and then we'd watch a movie and eat food. and we'd hang out. This is before I met Emilia. This is us just being friends. We were just friends. And she lived near me, all that stuff. Now there's none of that. I mean, we don't have as much time as we used to. Kevin and I, the demands on our time and attention have absolutely skyrocketed, and we're grateful for that. Very, very grateful for that. But Amy's like, no, I really wish that I had taken my time with you and Kevin more seriously. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to get you two's time, because honestly, in many ways, those days are over, and that's okay. That's okay. I said, Amy, you're still going to see us at Next Level Live events. You're still going to see us at team retreats. You're still going to see us, here and there, Next Level Hope Foundation, charity events, you name it. But it's never going to be what it used to be. Why? Because we've grown so much. And so the most important lesson that I learned in 2022 is the value of this simple skill that scientists refer to as projecting. In other words, you take the past and then you project it into the future. I'm going to use one more person as an example. This person, different person, came up to me and said, I found out how much money I have in my investment accounts. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Like, I can't believe it, right? This person's parents had put money away before when she was born and for college, and then just kept it going. And she kept pouring into it. Investment. This person's excellent with money. And I guessed the number, and I was off. I guessed 370. I think it was 330,000. And she's like blown away by this, right? And in my head, I'm like, honestly, it was probably 370 6 months ago because the economy has really taken a big hit lately. But the point is that we drastically underestimate how much one daily habit projected into the future can change everything. I'll give you one example. I quit drinking alcohol on July 4th, 2019. July 4th, 2019 is the last time I drank alcohol. When I used to drink, I would drink too much and too often, and I would still achieve, I would still get my work done, I still studied, I still did well in school, and at my jobs, but not nearly what I do now. I mean, if you've ever been hungover, now imagine doing that once a week. Okay, there goes at least 1/7 of your productivity. Now 1/7 compounded over 52 weeks a year, right? Over 3.5 years now. The ability to project into the future. So Google at one point was a couple of people in a room creating a search engine. And now Google is what we all know as Google. But remember, Google wasn't always Google. At one point, Google, we had never even heard of. Kevin and I were on our Macs in middle school. And I remember the very first time I Googled anything, before Googling anything was even a thing. You never know how big something can grow. That little redwood acorn turns into this massive 200 high or whatever, however many feet high tree, because it grows over time, but it takes 100 years. And so whether it's 24 years or 12 years or 10 years, 5 years, my most important lesson for 2022 is how valuable the ability to take what you're doing now is, the results you're getting from that, and ignite the compound effect and actually project into the future. Because Kevin and I's revenue, we made no money in 2017. In 2018, we made, I think, $18,000. In 2019, we more than doubled that. In 2020, we more than doubled that. In 2021, we tripled. And then in 2022, we doubled that. And so we're intending on doubling in 2023. The numbers get really big really fast. Math, projecting into the future, and numbers, which math and numbers are the same. Math and projecting into the future is the lesson. I don't think you can think accurately without statistics, probability, and math. And I think that I underestimated how valuable that was, probably because I always loved math as a kid. So I think I underestimated how few people actually understand how big things will get if they can stay consistent.
Next Level University and Kevin is exactly where you need to be if you're a podcaster. When I first started out just a few months ago, I had no clue on the direction I was going. I was getting hustled by another company that was giving me not even close to the value that Kevin and Next Level U was giving me. They literally changed the trajectory of my podcast, have helped me out tremendously. They understand the clients. I promise you, you will not go wrong with dealing with Kevin and Next Level You. I'll see you there.
While you were saying all that, I pulled up my calendar from January 2022. Because again, it's hard to remember. I don't remember what that was like. I don't remember what it was like 365 days ago because so much has happened. I had 5 calls all week.
Wait, really?
Yeah, literally Thursday, January 6th, 2022, I had nothing. There's nothing on my calendar for that day. 0.
So, okay, 5 calls all week.
Yeah.
Now you're doing that amount of podcasts pretty much a day, if you include this show and Podcast Growth University.
What am I doing? 7, 8, 20. Yeah.
Because you're projected, the goal is 1,000 in 2023.
I'm doing like 4. If I'm doing 20 a week, I'm doing 4 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm averaging 4 a day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah. But again, I mean, you think of it this way. I don't know if there is ever any days now where I don't do 5 calls a day. And I was doing 5 calls a week.
And that's 1 year.
That's 1 year. That's what I'm saying is like, I wasn't even getting on podcasts at the beginning of the year.
I know.
So it's hard to understand. That's why I think we do lose gratitude for certain things, because it's like, oh man, I'm on 17 podcasts this week. It's going to kill me. But at the beginning of the year, I would have killed to be on 17 podcasts. That's the interesting thing. Sometimes and again, it didn't happen fast. A lot of this is like we've put in so much effort that it's catching up. But that's just mind-blowing to me.
And that's just 1 year. Imagine what you were doing in January of 2021.
And
2020.
None of these are podcasts either. It's like I'm looking, I wasn't going on any podcasts.
Nope. That department was barely afloat. Now it's the most successful department we have, genuinely. So huge shout out to Laura, by the way. Yeah. Laura is just the most consistent. I mean, unbelievable.
And just, shout out to everybody in the team. Because again, Alan and I are very blessed to have an amazing, aligned, heart-driven, core value-driven team. We're very blessed. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Or I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't guess that or realize that, being behind the scenes. But it's not just
the best thing in the world.
Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and we're grateful. We wouldn't be able to do this at the level we do without them. But that's very interesting to me to look back 365 days and realize I'm doing in a day what I did in a week. That's wild.
And now that's every day though. Yeah. So 52 days is the same as 2022 was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like the math of that, I think, and again, I don't want to hammer my point down again, but math. I have many, many business clients, and I joked recently. So ever since I was a little kid, Kev, I always wanted to be a math teacher. And I told myself that they don't make enough money. That's what I told myself back then. I wanted to make more money than that. But I loved math, and I wanted to be a math teacher. I wanted to help kids, all that. Still do, honestly. You know what's interesting? I had a moment the other day where I'm coaching business owners. I'm teaching finance on a call, and I'm like, oh my God, I found a way to be a math teacher and make a lot of money. Because I'm basically just teaching math. I coach Bianca and Emilia at Evolve Ventures, and they're like, well, what's the most important leverage point for 2023? Both of you, it's the same answer. You both need to learn math. Like you're not going to grow and scale a $1 billion company without math. You're not going to do it. That's not a thing, right? And so, yeah, for people out there who are watching or listening, there's members of the NLU team that didn't understand the value of numbers until they came into my world and into the NLU orbit, really. I think that maybe in some ways that's becoming my purpose is share how amazing math is. Finances, at one point Kev didn't even want to track finances. Now you couldn't get him off that spreadsheet if you tried, honestly, because he sees the value now. And so I think that a lot of us grow up disliking math, and maybe we didn't have good math teachers. I know that's a thing. But I would say that if you want to be more successful in 2023, even in relationships, math is important, cup fillers and leverage points and probability and statistics. And so I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but I would say the number one lesson in 2022, I now am more grateful for my math mind. And I would say I now think it's more important than I ever thought before for people to really start loving numbers. You don't have to love, differential calculus. I'm not saying that, but you need to understand exponentials. You need to understand graphs. You need to understand growth rates. You need to understand what Kevin just said about the difference between 5 calls a week versus 5 a day. Like if you can't understand the compound effect exponentially of that, it's going to be very hard for you to be consistent because you don't know what the opportunity cost is.
So last thing before we go, it was 5 in the first week of January 2022. I have 35 on the first week of January 2023. And honestly, that's...
So 7 times.
7 times. And it's a little bit slower of a week, honestly. It's not as... Like tomorrow, we're recording this on Monday. My first call is until 11 tomorrow.
Kev,
usually it's 9.
I just want to real quick crunch the numbers on that real quick. Okay, so 5 versus 35. So if you take 35 and divide it by 5, that's 7. So Kevin is doing 7 times the amount of productive output in the same amount of time as he was at the beginning of 2022.
And now, that's just front-facing.
Let me show you that times 52 weeks. That means Kevin's going to get 364 times the results he did in 2022.
I like that.
And honestly, it'll be more than that. But that's the numbers. That's assuming you cannot burn to the ground.
I think that what we're doing is sustainable. And again, that's the other thing too. You can grow a lot.
Yeah.
Again, I tell at the beginning of this journey if I had 2 calls in a day, I was like, all right, I'm done. That's it. 2 coaching calls. It's like, no way.
Yeah.
You can't get a hold of me after that. Now but again, it's the time. That's another year is not 365 days. It's how much did I change from, that's the last thing, I promise, $2 in the jar. You have the 5 years, like it's way different than it was 5 years ago, but it's almost more different from the beginning of the year to the end of the year than it was 5 years ago to now, because so much has changed over the course of the last year. And that's a whole mind.
Oh, because of, yeah. All right.
Because of the compound effect.
Did that land for anyone? Do you think?
Probably more than what you're going to do, because I'm sure you're going to do something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I won't ruin it. Essentially, we have achieved more in the last year than the previous 4 years combined.
Yeah.
So the amount of change, it's accelerating acceleration.
Yeah,
so the rate of change has changed. Yeah. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole. The point is, math is super important.
Next Level Nation, we have, as you know, one of our main focuses is adding value. And we do 7 episodes a week because we want to be in your pocket every single day. We have a bunch of different things where you can give us money for services and all that. But what we do have is we have a course that's completely free on our website. So we sat down in our studio and we had our studio. Alan and I spent a Sunday together and we said, what are the most important fundamentals we can share with our audience? We recorded it. As you know, we do a lot of video. So it's in video. There's worksheets. You can download the entire course, share it with your friends, take it at your own pace. Totally free on the website. We'll have the link in the show notes. Next Level 5 to Thrive.
It is the 5 fundamentals. Number 1, clarity. Number 2, commitment. Number 3, confidence. Number 4, consistency. And number 5, community.
Nice, strong work.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Also, as you know, so if you're listening to this on the Thursday that it drops, we have a monthly meetup literally tonight. So make sure you register right now so that we can get an accurate head count. Setting clear goals for 2023 that actually build belief. It's January 5th, which is today, 2023, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's tonight if you're listening to this on Thursday. Please register in the link in the show notes. The goal here is how to set you up with clarity in 2023 in a way that's not going to crush your self-esteem or self-belief. Because a lot of times people set goals that are way too big and it crushes their self-esteem. Other people set goals that are way too small and it doesn't motivate them. Small goals aren't motivating. Huge goals are overwhelming. How do you find your sweet spot? Register at the link in the show notes.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1208. Is that true? That's wild. We will be talking about understanding your 3 identities. It is a framework, an exercise that I've done with clients. Alan has done with clients as well. I don't think this is the one you're thinking of, Alan, but I think this is more my framework than yours, believe it or not.
Oh.
Do you believe that?
I am excited.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about it before. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
And we'll see you at the next level.